Well, for a closer look at Kamala Harris as a person and her connection to Canada, we are joined now by Wanda Kagan. Wanda is a close friend of the Vice President from their time attending Westmount High School in Montreal together, and she joins me tonight from Montreal. Wanda, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on your show.
What was your first reaction when you heard that President Joe Biden was stepping aside and endorsing Kamala Harris as the 2024 Democratic candidate?
I was elated. I was overwhelmed with joy, and at the same time, a little saddened by that Joe was stepping down. But I was really, really happy for her, and yeah.
You know, I want to talk about who she is as a person, because a lot of people know her as a political figure in a moment. But you know, we have heard reporting that the team around Biden said that she was so steadfast in her support, standing behind him as he wanted to remain the Democratic candidate until he made the decision ultimately to step aside. What do you make of that and her really backing him in that moment?
Well, that's just the dynamics of that they've had as president and vice president, and the work that they've both done together so far to date. That to me, it would be so expected that she would stand behind him and he would stand behind her, as he has done, and now endorsing her.
Okay, let's rewind. Let's go all the way back. When did you first meet Kamala Harris?
So I met her in high school. We were high school transfers to Westmount High School in Montreal, Quebec, in Canada. And we were really, really close friends. But where people are now starting to hear and find out about our close friendship is because I was being physically and sexually abused at home. And I told Kamala, and Vice President Kamala, and she took me in immediately to live with her and her family. And so that's why for me, it just means so much that I'm like, the people of America are getting to see the true person, the empathetic, energetic person I've always known. Who fights for people.
When you told her that, you know, something that is so personal and intimate, what was her reaction and what kind of support did she give you?
Her reaction, well, she was saddened by that I had been going through that. Like I said, we were best friends, and then her first thought was, well, you'll have to come and stay with us. And I remember at the time saying, we haven't asked your mom yet. And she then asked her mom, and her too. She was like, yeah, she'll have to come and stay with us. And then I went to stay with them and live with them, and they helped navigate me through different things of the system, you know, after being taken out of that situation.
What did that mean for you in that moment, that she opened up her home for you?
It meant so much to me, and it was a safe haven. It was a rescue. I always say that her drive and her passion for helping people is what led me to continuing on in my education and my path, even after we both went our own ways to different universities, because I was just I was just so thankful for, you know, being taken in and being guided, you know.
Did you always see that leadership in her, those qualities? And tell me, you know, a little bit about the qualities that you saw in her that have taken her through to where she is today, all these years later.
Well, I've always saw those qualities in her, and that's why, for even when she was, you know, running for when she was district attorney, and then she started fighting for women and children who've been through abusive situations. Like she said, she started that on early in her career, having gone through what she had been through with me. You know, kind of motivated and drove her to that. But I was never really surprised, because that's just the kind of person she is. She's very compassionate. She's very empathetic, and she fights for what she believes in. Like even in high school, when we were going to prom, like you think back 40 years ago, people did not go to prom without a date. It was just not accepted. And And she was like, no, it's not right. There was girls that were upset or crying because they didn't have the date yet, or they didn't know who they were going with. And we just decided we're going to just go as a group of girls so nobody would be alienated. And so that goes to show the kind of person she was even way back then.
Wow. So, I mean, obviously, you knew she had leadership skills. Did you ever think, though, that she'd be in this position, potentially running for the highest office in the United States, which many people say is the most powerful position in the entire world?
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I sometimes reflect every so often, and I say it's so surreal. Like, even, when I went to visit her at the White House and we had lunch, and you say to yourself, oh my God, this person is making decisions for the world. And I say to myself, but you can always imagine that drive she's had, but to think that she'd be the most powerful woman in the world is surreal.
So it's interesting. So you still keep in touch then?
Yes, we still keep in touch.
And so has she changed, or is she still kind of the same girl that you knew back in high school?
Well, that's what's so fascinating, and probably people will not believe, is that she's still Kamala that I know. Like, you could have a position and you can have decisions to make and you can be running the country, but you're still a human being, and like she says, that she has a strong circle of friends and family around her that, when everybody needs to have that sense of normality in their life too. But she's the same person. Like, when I see her on stage and she's dancing, I'm like, oh yeah, because she was always a dancer. It's not like, oh, there she is dancing. She was always a dancer. In high school, we had a dance troupe, we used to dance.
Oh, no way. She got good moves or what?
Pardon?
She have good moves?
Yeah, exactly. She has good moves. She has good rhythm. Like, that's just who she is. Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about the connection to this country, because, as we say, she spent a significant amount of time in Canada.
Yeah. Her connection to Canada is, like she sometimes says also, is because she did go to high school here, and she did, your high school years, are a foundation to your future. They do set the seed as well. And having that friendship that we had, and having had the situation that I was enduring, and having lived that with me, and hearing her say it impacted, her to the point that when she was in California and she started all these things for women and children against, fighting for women and children who have been abused, is really moving. And that comes back to, like I say, me and Canada. And that was our connection, though, because most of my family's in the States. Her family was in the States, so yeah.
Last question to you, because I've got to wrap up here, but when you look at the contrast between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, why do you think, personally, knowing her as long as you have, that she is the best person for the United States of America in this moment?
I think that she is the right person because she's a woman, she's a fighter, she's been a lawyer, district attorney. She's true to her passion, and her passion has always been fighting for people.
Wanda, appreciate your time tonight. That is Wanda Kagan, who is a close friend of Vice President Kamala Harris.